And I give the call to the honourable member for Warringah.
The amendments as circulated in my name. I not have read those amendments. The intent of these amendments is to ensure the future of targets and emissions budgets are informed by science, something for which for far too long has not really been the source of the debate in this place. This is achieved through requiring the minister to seek the advice of the Climate Change Authority in advance of lodging a new nationally determined contribution under the Paris Agreement. This is important because we know the world is moving towards net zero. We need to ensure we are compliant with our obligations under the Paris Agreement and ensure we are focused on the ultimate goal of the Paris Agreement, which is to achieve limiting global warming to as close to 1.5 degrees as possible. This amendment also clarifies that future greenhouse gas emissions reduction targets are required for 2035, for 2040 and 2045. This provides a very clear roadmap to net zero. The note included in the amendment further reinforces that while the new Climate Change Authority advice isn't necessarily required for adjustments to nationally determined contributions, any adjustment must represent an enhancement of ambition towards emissions reduction. This means we cannot slide backwards. So any change of governments, and I would call this our future insurance policy, that says that once an NDC has been made, it cannot be amended to go backwards. Whilst, of course, this means also the government does not have to seek advice of the Climate Change Authority to review its 2030 target, I would urge the government to, when the evidence is in, when we see how well the international community and in industry and business invests in our transition, that further ambition can be achieved, that we can send that message that we are up for more. Australians have always, absolutely, on the world stage in so many areas, we always bat above our weight. In sport, in industry, in businesses, we always manage to overachieve. And so I would encourage the government to consider, when it's possible, when advice is available, to do that. In my amendment, I'd like to take this opportunity to also ask the Minister a clarifying question on the consequential amendments bill. I appreciate the Minister's commitment to continue reviewing further acts for inclusion in the consequential amendments. So, Minister, could you please confirm that this review process will also consider strengthening the operation of the current set of amendments, such as the Northern Australia Infrastructure Facility, an amendment, and require in time a shift from may to consider the climate change impacts to must consider climate change impacts? Because clearly may provides a huge loophole from a legal background where further projects can be approved and the climate impacts just ignored. Must provides a much greater liability to consider climate impacts on funding and approvals and projects, and it's clear that that's needed if we want to achieve the ultimate goal of the Paris Agreement of limiting warming to 1.5 degrees.
I thank the member. The question is that the amendment be agreed to, and I give the call to the Minister for Climate Change and Energy.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Again, the government is happy to support this amendment. This reflects good faith discussions. The honourable member for Warringah had a range of suggestions, from some of which I had some concerns with. I thank her for amending those words and taking that on board. Again, it's a sign of a parliament working well collaboratively. So I think her amendment is a very sound one. Again, it would always be my intention and the government's intention to seek CCA advice for any significant change to the NDC, but this clarifies and confirms that. In relation to the honourable member's question about the operation of the review of the Consequential Amendments Act, I must say from my point of view, the government's point of view, it is mainly to consider what other government organisations can and should be impacted. Of course, if there's sensible suggestions that come forward as part of that review, we would consider them in good faith.
The question is the amendment be agreed to. I'll put the question. All those opinions say aye. To the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. Ayes have it. Division required. Ring the bells for 4 minutes. Order. The result of the division is ayes 89, noes 56. The question is therefore resolved in the affirmative.